Will Donald Trump cause the markets to go boom or bust? Should investors cheer the results of the US elections or prepare for doomsday?
With the party at the polls settled, it's time to see what ripple effects are now headed our way. If the new US president were a local Singapore drink, what would they be and why?
Masala tea, because it's hot and spicy.
I would say it's a yin-yang, okay? Because it's like mixed between coffee and tea, you're not quite sure what you're going to get. He is unpredictable.
What impact do the election results have on global trade and economic policies, particularly the US and China? So this is a serious question.
You know, Trump has a few catchphrases. He wants to make America great again. He is known as the tariff man because he has proposed 60% tariffs on China and also 10% to 20% for the rest of the world. It's going to be challenging mainly because people are worried about whether there's going to be retaliation and how will China actually survive with 60% tariffs. But of course, China can step up some of its external influence. These would include other avenues, trade with the Middle East, trade with ASEAN, trade with the other BRIC countries as well. As for Singapore's position as a trade hub, Singapore clearly is neutral. So I think as far as Singapore is concerned, life will still go on. How might the new administration's stance on monetary policy affect US interest rates, and what are the implications for markets in Asia?
There's going to be volatility, greater volatility in Asia, even periods of sharp pullbacks. But we see those pullbacks as an opportunity for investors to position themselves, if you're a long-term investor, with the risk appetite.
Because Trump wants to tighten up on immigration, he talks about mass deportations. That's going to affect the US labour market, potentially driving up manpower cost, and that's going to add to inflation. Secondly, if he also implements all the tariffs that he has promised, that also means that US consumers will face higher prices. So net, higher inflation could mean that the Fed could not cut as much interest rates as what they earlier indicated. So market pricing for US Fed rate cuts have been pulling back, in the run-up to the US elections and with the US election results. Suppose Singapore held a presidential election tomorrow with local hawker dishes as candidates. Who would win, Hainanese chicken rice or laksa?
I would pick laksa because laksa is tasty, potentially spicy. So I would go for laksa.
Can I pick neither of these? Neither Hainanese chicken rice or laksa? I just came back from Penang and I thought the char kway teow would be a good pick actually.
Okay, yeah. Why did you say that? I wouldn't pick any of this.
Char kway teow. Given the US new economic priorities, how would that affect Singapore and Southeast Asia? We have done a study and it does show that for the more open and trade-dependent economies, those that have benefited also in the past from the China Plus One diversification strategy, everyone will be caught in the net, so to speak, from the US perspective. So in the short term, there could be some uncertainty, and a lot of businesses are already starting to try and preempt that. For Singapore's case, we do have a free trade agreement with the US, and that can be amended, but it's uncertain, as to the timing and the extent of the amendment. If Singapore had to send a welcome basket to the new president, what local items would you include to make a lasting impression?
Now, being an Indian myself, I love masala chicken. So what I'll do is probably send him some masala chicken to give him an idea of what it tastes like to be hot and spicy, which is what investors are going through right now. With new policies potentially shaping tech and energy sectors in the US, how will markets be affected and what opportunities might there be for investors? Clearly, the traditional energy sector in the US looks like it could benefit. Now, other sectors that could also benefit from Trump's policies could be the financial sector, for one. And you've seen financial stocks in the US done quite well, and banking stocks elsewhere too doing quite well. With Trump, he may be quite open to the idea of M&A, big deals in the banking sector. And again, this benefits the US banks. I think with Trump and the Republican Party, they seem to be more relaxed as far as drug pricing is concerned and generics. And so the pharmaceutical companies could benefit. Tech sector could also benefit from Trump because, with his lighter touch towards regulation, the sector stands to benefit, especially in a sector where there's a lot of potential for M&A or merger and acquisition activity. While gold has taken a setback, I think it's possible that gold could come back into vogue over the next few years with the Trump presidency. So don't forget the precious metal. With the new US president in office, how should investors ready their dry powder to invest in the coming months and in the medium term? Volatility is going to be there. I think investors should not be spooked. Two pieces of advice. keep your portfolios diversified. That's number one. And number two, I think, spread your investments out perhaps over the next 6 months, 12 months. In other words, what we call dollar cost averaging.
As our PM Lawrence Wong has said, there is multipolar forces and also a lot of geopolitical tensions on the horizon. But as with all things, Singapore stays neutral and agile. And similarly, as an investor in the financial markets, stay calm and continue on.
Totally agree with that, Selena. Stay calm, continue on. As long as the economy and earnings do relatively well, I think in the medium term, the markets may continue to do well. And I think there's still a case for investors to stay invested.